I call this meeting of May 7th, 2018 to order. Would you please stand for the flag salute and remain standing for the invocation with Father Burns?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a reflection for Pentecost from Pope John Paul II, a force for good for people worldwide. Holy Spirit and seed of wisdom, help us in the great endeavor that we are carrying out to meet on a more and more mature way our brothers and sisters in the faith. Through all the means of knowledge, of mutual respect, of love, may we be able to rediscover gradually the divine plan. Teach us constantly the ways that leads to unity. How greatly I desire to entrust to you all the difficult problems of the society, systems, and states, problems that cannot be solved with hatred, war, and self-destruction, but only by peace, justice, and respect for the rights of people and nations. Amen.
Amen. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Potato.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Hayden.
Here.
Hochstetter.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Peterson. Here. Reed.
So Councilmember Reed actually called in this week, so do we have a motion to excuse him?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
It's been motioned and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed is excused. First item, we have a proclamation for law enforcement. It's Law Enforcement Week. So I'll call Chief Muricky to the podium. So here we go. Proclamation. Whereas law enforcement officers play an essential role in ensuring our safety and in safeguarding our rights and freedoms, and whereas our officers partner with citizens to keep our community as safe as possible by enforcing traffic laws, often at great risk to their own personal safety, and whereas Sumner police officers continue to face increased danger and scrutiny in the performance of their official duties, and whereas our officers recognize their duty to serve our citizens by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression, and whereas in 2017, Sumner police officers responded to over 15,800 calls for service, arrested 482 suspects, made 3,073 traffic stops, and removed 36 impaired drivers from our roadways, provided needed security, and participated in numerous community events and parades. And whereas the Congress and President of the United States have established May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls as National Police Week. Now, therefore, the City of Sumner proclaims May 15th, 2018 as Peace Officer Memorial Day, and the week of May 13th through May 19th as Police Week in the City of Sumner, and urges all citizens to mark this occasion with appropriate ceremonies commemorating police officers past and present who by their faithful and loyal devotion have collectively preserved our rights and our security.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor and Council, and really the City of Sumner and our community. They've been extremely supportive throughout the history. And last week, we had the Pierce County Law Enforcement Memorial event last Wednesday, and I was very honored to have Mayor Pugh, Deputy Mayor Hayden, Councilmember Botetto, and our city administrator and former police chief John Galley attend, along with our chaplain and numerous military officers, public elected officials, judges, citizens. It's a sombering occasion to honor the lives of people that have given their ultimate sacrifice to their profession in our communities. This poster lists 60 names of Pierce County law enforcement officers that have lost their life from 1955 to 2017. Our community had a tragic loss in January of this year with Deputy Daniel McCartney, whose name will be added to this poster next year. In total, 135 officers lost their lives in line of duty. In 2017, we're at 50 so far this year, over 26 to gun violence, and over 20,000 since they first began tracking these in 1791. But I want to thank the City of Sumner and the community and our officers that are out there every day answering the calls for duty, even at extreme risk. So thank you very much for this. It means a lot to our officers.
Thank you, Chief. So tonight we have Representative Morgan Irwin here to fill us in on what's going on in the 31st District.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, members of the public, and Chief, thank you very much. We just had I'm a police officer in Seattle when I'm not down in Olympia, and we just had the Behind the Badge Foundation Ball for folks who are interested in getting involved in helping not only officers on the street, but families behind them. The Behind the Badge Foundation, Code Blue Northwest, are both fantastic organizations that you can support in various different ways. So look those up if you're so inclined. Not what I'm here to talk about tonight, though. I'm one of your two representatives for the 31st Legislative District. I live in Enumclaw, that's where I grew up, and in the last session, which was a short session this year, we had a couple of really big moves and then kind of some incremental things that matter specifically for Sumner. So the main thing was we got our capital budget done from last year. We also passed a supplemental capital budget, which we would usually do in an off year. Both of those include various projects within the 31st Legislative District. Probably the largest district or project in the district this year is going to be $12 million that'll go towards Carbonado to completely redo their wastewater and drinking water systems because it was failing. So that's where a bunch of the money is going to be going because that was kind of most pressing. But then we have a lot of money going towards transportation issues. So the main transportation issues inside the 31st Legislative District remain the 167 interchange, which we're all keenly aware of, Highway 410, especially the portion of it between Bonnie Lake and Buckley. The bridge in between Enumclaw and Buckley that backs up for a half hour plus every morning and evening, and the growing problem of Highway 162 between Sumner and Ording. All of those problems probably going to get worse as Oak Point goes in, which is the large development in Black Diamond, and Tahali continues to build out just south of Bonnie Lake. To that end, we have pretty good buy-in from the management groups with both of the construction groups, so with Oak Point and with the folks at Tahali. They're paying to put in quite a bit in terms of roads down towards 162. The state is in turn taking a look at some of the bridges on 162 and will probably be replacing and widening those over the next 5 to 10 years. The 167 interchange project or exchange project was moved up in terms of timeline, so instead of it being done in 15 years, it should be done in about 5. And then we're commissioning studies to look at the traffic problems in between Bonnie Lake and Enumclaw on the 410 corridor. One of the things that we really focus on at the state, and I think this is one of the few things that I think makes sense when it comes to especially the Department of Transportation, is we try and think of transportation systems as a system as opposed to an individual road. Recognizing that if we start screwing up 410, then 167 gets the diversionary traffic and vice versa. And that's what we've seen a lot, I think, on Highway 410 over the last 5 years or so, that 167 with some of the construction and then just the increased population of this area is no longer serving the public like it needs to. And so we're seeing the overflow of that, of people driving out and around on 410, which is clogging 410. So looking at transportation in North Pierce County and South King County as a system as opposed to individual roads is the kind of the process that we're taking, and I think it's a positive one. But we've got a long ways to go on it. So those are the main issues. We also, outgoing State Representative Melanie Stambaugh had some money in the capital budget for Traffic Avenue. And that's still in the works. And then she was also working on the parking garage at the train station, which is also in the works. So we've got some really good things specific to Sumner in that regard. I was going to ask the council, and you can take it as a challenge or what have you, but we are up for another capital budget cycle, which means my office, Representative Stokesbury and Senator Fortunato will all be looking at new capital budget requests. If we can have those in by end of the summer, middle end of the summer, then we get a chance to go back and forth to make sure that everything's in the form that the state needs it to be in, craft any language we need to make sure that they have the best chance of getting done, and then try and provide the funding for those sorts of projects. The best way to get a project through the capital budget process is to focus on projects that are already started, projects that already have local support, projects where the locality kind of has skin in the game and says, hey, this is important to us, but we need a little help getting it across the finish line. That's really what the state's there to do on those, and I would love to be part of finishing off any of those projects that you may have. Project ranges for capital budget projects go from $50,000 up to I think it was about $80 million that Senator Roach brought in for the YMCA Center. So it's quite a breadth of issues that are out there, but if we can help, we'd like to. On the legislative front, we had some focus this year on criminal justice reform. We were looking at things like serial gropers, which I've yet to come up with a better term for that because I don't like saying it, but for people who do simple assault with sexual motivation, right now that's a misdemeanor and it remains a misdemeanor forever, even if you commit multiple of them. And we're looking at some legislation that would basically stack that so that on your third offense it would become a felony, so we can try and get some sexual deviants off the street before that's expanded even further. We looked at increasing protections for domestic violence victims, and we're successfully able to get some legislation done there. And we're also looking very heavily at human trafficking, and we passed a series of laws around human trafficking, ranging from disappearance of Native American women specifically, all the way to internet crimes against children, and looking at some of the ramifications around that. So it was a busy session. We got a lot done in terms of the local stuff. That's kind of what affects you most. But if you've got any questions, here I am, or we can follow up with email or phone calls.
So we have met with Drew Stokesbury and Hans Zeiger on the 410 interchange, seeking funding for getting that's important to us. We help relieve traffic, and especially when the parking garage opens, and we're hoping we have your support on that also.
100%. Yeah, no, when we think about regional transit issues, that's one of the choke points. And when you have a choke point, it affects every road in that system, every diversionary road. And so that's one of those choke points that we got to work on.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for him?
Last thing, very quickly, Puyallup River. We're looking at putting in, over the next 5 or 10 years, a series of 3 boat launches for the Puyallup River. Right now, if the fire department needs to do swiftwater rescue, basically it's tie a rope around a firefighter and throw them over the bushes and hope for the best. But if we could get some boat ramps in there, we can increase our safety. It could also have major implications for recreational fishing and possibly open up different seasons. And to that end, we're also looking at restoring the steelhead run, which we've lost in the Puyallup River. So that would be a whole additional fishing season, which means a whole bunch more people in town during extra parts of the year, which would be good for everybody. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
All right, so moving on to consent agenda. Would you like to read the consent agenda, Michelle?
Item 1, approval of the regular council meeting minutes of April 16th, 2018, April 23rd, 2018 study session, and April 30th, 2018 special study session. Item 2, approval of the 2018 business claims in the amount of $1,200,334.87, voucher numbers 100580 through 100730. Item 3, ordinance number 2638, and attention to driving code amendment. Item 4, resolution number 1491, elected official social media policy. Item 5, ordinance 2639, contested impound hearing filing fees. Item 6, ordinance number 2637, council meeting start times. Item 7, Serum Networks contract change orders. Item 8, ordinance number 2641, police dog code amendment. And item 9, U.S. Bank Voyager fuel card amendment, fuel card agreement.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
A second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Hochstetter, seconded by Peterson. There we go. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right, down to regular business. Public comment. Would the clerk please read the comment rules?
This time is reserved for you to address the mayor and the council on matters of city business that are not on the agenda. It should be remembered that we are engaged in the public's business and an appropriate level of decorum should be maintained at all times. Only one person may have the floor at a time. This is a time for the mayor and the council to hear from citizens and is not the opportunity to engage council members or the mayor in debate. When recognized by the mayor, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and when the timer sounds, please conclude your comments and return to your seat. If you would like to ask a question, it is best to submit it in writing in order that the mayor, council, or staff may have adequate time to research and provide a complete answer.
Thank you. So I have one person signed up, which doesn't mean anybody else can speak, but Mike Connor.
Good evening. I live at 4923 Parker Road in Sumner, and I'm here to invite the community to our Memorial Day celebration and our ceremony. And our ceremony's been going on now consistently since 1923, maybe a little older. We haven't gotten back far enough. But it's on May 28th, and after that we have a community lunch that the community is invited to, and please come and celebrate our 75th year in Sumner as a service community. And one day we'll be out of business because there won't be any more wars, and we'll end all of that. But the other element that I wanted to bring up is the chief and I were talking earlier. Our hall, we're putting up all the service flags, and we would like flags from both Bonnie Lake and Sumner for the police department, or departments, and the fire department, and none of which, to my understanding, has their flags yet. So we'll be approaching them to assist in putting together unit flags for each one of them. And because as much as we look around the world that all the people that serve us, the ones that are serving in our backyard, we tend to forget that they're here 24 hours a day. Right. And we have a place that we can put them, and with respect in the building. So please make it a item on your agenda. Stop by. Memorial weekend, we'll be out. We only usually do one weekend because the community support we get is fantastic. But we'll be out selling poppies, and we have our traditional little poem on the back of our sheet, so the young people can pass the word along about where it all started. But thank you,
Thank you.
and thank you for your service. On that note,
Thank you.
have a good evening.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Kylie Hill, and I live on 1804 Academy Street. And Earl had asked me to stop by today to give a recap of the Sumner sweep, and I know there was four of you guys that were there, so thank you. I definitely appreciate any feedback from you guys on it. I was super excited. I feel we had about 50 or so people there. We picked up a lot of cigarettes, not so much like heavy, bulky trash, but I thought that was great that we did that. Some takeaways that I got from it is 2 hours is too long. 90 minutes would probably be a better time frame. It would, I think, be beneficial if we could have, which the city was great in donating a dumpster, and I don't know if this is possible, but keeping that dumpster at the high school parking lot, so then everyone can come full circle and end at where we started. There was quite a few people that had suggested maybe doing like a scavenger hunt or weighing the trash at the end, you know, something that was motivating to people. So if the dumpster was back at the same spot, that would make it easy to do that. I have a few questions that I was thinking maybe you guys could answer. I noticed personally when I was outside of a few businesses, there were certain businesses that tended to have more trash than others. I don't know if I can say the business out loud. Is that okay? Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I'd probably prefer that you don't, but you
Okay,
could
perfect.
certainly share that with me personally. Yeah.
Well, one thing in particular is I noticed there was a lot of cigarettes at one location. So can businesses provide a place for their coworkers
Yeah.
to dispose of those instead of just putting them on the ground? Because it was close to the main intersection, and so I felt that really spilled over into the crosswalks and things. So I don't know if something like that could happen. And then just my big ideas is I would love, Melanie, I think you brought up, which really struck a chord with me, that, you know, Fred Meyer takes on a lot of stuff, and they do when you think about that. So is there a way that we could, you know, show them that we're willing to partner with them and help them pick up, and if they could join us with certain things? I don't know how you even go about that, but ideally I would love to see, you know, all of the businesses, like the day of, everyone's responsible for their storefront, and we're picking up and things like that. So those are just some of my thoughts I had after the event, but I was pleased.
Perfect.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you. I had a great time, and I was looking for the most unusual item, but I don't think I did find a dime, though.
You did, okay.
I felt lucky. Anybody find anything?
Oh.
Well, Earl's better than I am. I kept it. So. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right. Off to regular business. So, item A, 18095, ordinance number 2642, zoning code text amendment, funeral homes. Mr. Mendenhall.
Yes, thank you. I am filling in for Ryan Windish this evening. He is ill at home. The proposed text amendment is to address an existing legally non-conforming situation. Our existing funeral homes are legally non-conforming in their current situation. They were permitted back in the day, but our zoning codes have changed such that it's no longer allowed use within those zones. So the proposed text amendment, it addresses that and would allow for funeral homes, funeral parlors, and mortuaries to be an allowed use in the commercial areas and as a conditional use in the residential areas. Staff's reviewed this with the Planning Commission. We've reviewed it at the study session with the council and would like to recommend that the council move forward and approve it as proposed. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions? No? Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. B, 18-098, ordinance number 2640, authorizing an interfund loan from the Stormwater Fund 408 to the General Fund 001. Chief Financial Officer Cassandra.
That would be me. Thank you. Council, before you for consideration is ordinance number 2640. This is authorizing an interfund loan from the Stormwater Fund, which is our fund number 408, to fund number 001, which is our general fund, and an amount not to exceed $1,075,000. In the next council item subsequent to this, you'll be asked to approve the acquisition of real property located at 15126, 15208, and 15216 Main Street East. At the April 30th study session, City Council reviewed the potential funding options for this acquisition of real property. Those included using general fund balance, using the reserve fund, or using an interfund loan. At that time, Council deemed it prudent and appropriate to utilize an interfund loan for the acquisition of the real property, and that's what's before you now. The funds would be repaid by December 31st, 2021. It's anticipated that the funds would be repaid in 2 equal annual installments, one in December of 2020 and the final in December of 2021. And of course, City Council always has the option to authorize early repayment of funds through the biennial budget process. Interest will be paid on all outstanding loan principal at the rate paid by the local government investment pool, and interest shall be calculated and paid annually until the funds are fully repaid.
Great. Mr. Galley, did you want to?
Actually, if it's all right, I will reserve my comments for the next item. This is, I don't know if Cassandra mentioned, this is kind of a chicken and the egg type dilemma, which one comes first, and really they need to move along together. And I'm sure she's explained that to you. So.
Yes.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Earl? Oh. Do I have a motion first?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion we accept ordinance number 2640, authorizing an interfund loan from the Stormwater Fund to the General Fund.
I'll second that. It's been motioned and seconded. Mr. Stewart?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Cassandra, can you, I guess my question is, if we borrow money from another fund, does that have any impact on our debt capacity?
It does not. So interfund loans don't factor into our legal debt limits.
Okay, and just for giggles,
Sure.
what is our debt capacity?
So currently, the debt capacity is a percentage of our overall assessed valuation, and we have about 99% of our debt capacity remaining.
And so if we want to really borrow a bunch of money or sell bonds, how much could we get?
I would have to get back to you with that exact number. It's a big number.
It's just an interesting little fact.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Councilmember Hochstetter?
That was for my motion.
Oh, thank you. So, we have a motion. Any other comments? Are we ready to go?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're moving on to East Main property acquisition, 18-096. East Main property acquisition. Mr. Galley.
Okay. We are here to seek your approval for the purchase of a piece of property, which was most likely mentioned on the previous item, as a potential future home for the library. As you well know, Sumner has a long and very close relationship with the library. It was originally located in the Ryan House back in the 1920s. It remained there until sometime in the 70s. In 1977, they relocated to a larger facility on Friar Avenue, which at that time was nothing more than somewhat of a rural connector to the farms up north. The building was remodeled there on Friar Avenue in 1984, and then in 1995, they joined with the Pierce County Library System. Times have changed. Friar Avenue, instead of being a small rural road, now carries trucks and transportation for, I believe, 12 to 13,000 workers up in the north end. The porous brick building with a flat roof is not the best or most ideal building for the Northwest, as we have found. And at 10,000 square feet, it's undersized for the changing needs of the community and the library. With that in mind, we locate a 1.7-acre piece of property in the 15200 block of Main Street. It's directly across the street from Fred Meyer and Washington Court. We placed that property under contract on February 15th with a 90-day feasibility period. As part of our due diligence, in addition to environmental and title reports, we had discussions with the library regarding the potential site for its future use, and Clifford Joe will speak to that in just a minute. But we've discussed this issue in study session last week and are asking for your approval tonight to move ahead with completing that purchase. So I'm going to turn it over to Clifford.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and City Council members, the city itself, members of the public. I appreciate this opportunity to talk a little bit about the library and where it might be in the future. I'm Clifford Joe, and with me is Executive Director Georgia Lomax and Senior Librarian Ben Haynes, and Resident Librarian Laura Farrow, and the Friends of the Library also showed up tonight. During the past several years, we have been in discussions with City Manager John Galley and his staff, more recently with the Honorable Bill Pugh, and now with the entire City Council. Tonight can represent a milestone in the very real movement on a path to provide a new library to your community. So if I could direct your attention to this slide here. As you can see, the current library opened in 1977 and is now a 10,600 square foot facility. In 2016, it had nearly 16,000 cardholders, 10 to 12,000 visitors each month, over 325,000 items checked out, and somewhere north of 750,000 minutes read during summer reading. Later this year, it will pass the 10 million checkout mark since 1991, when the Washington State Libraries decided to publicize annual branch statistics. In other words, your library is well loved, and it is a busy community anchor. Could I get the next slide? While the current location worked well in earlier years, it is a challenge to access at the far west side of the city, and the facility's design is inadequate for providing needed services. In February, the city found property on Main Street East just across Fred Meyer, as John Galley mentioned, and as you can see on this slide, that red upside down L shape. It is an amazing location for a library for 4 reasons. It's in the center of the city, it's near other gathering spaces, residences are nearby, and it's a walkable community. Next slide. Our architect studied the proposed property and determined it is workable for a new library up to twice the current size with nearly double the parking space. The building, traffic accessible from 2 sides, would be street front with parking in the rear. We are truly excited for your community, and we sincerely appreciate the hard work from the city and your support to make this happen. Thank you. So if I can answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions for him?
Madam Deputy Mayor, if we could get a motion in a second before additional discussion.
I think we can. I might do this one right, maybe.
So do I have a motion on
I'll
this?
make this motion.
Yes, and I'd like to second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. Okay, now, there we go.
Thank you for taking an interest in this. When I very first ran for city council, it was the one item that I put on my list that I wanted to accomplish, and that was to help move the library into a central location where kids could walk to it, and it was, took advantage of our sidewalks and was, it's just such a great gathering place for everyone that to be in the center of our city would be just such an asset. So I'm hoping everything works out well and we can do all the fundraising and you'll be able to pull this off. So thank you.
Anybody else? Barbara?
What would be the timeline if all the funding and everything falls into place? What would you look at?
Well, and the milestone really is with the property, and that kicks off a series of events between now and as we study the fundraising needs, gather the community's input and support for it, you know, start to work with a capital budget from the state. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that has to be done before we even start construction. We also have to look at a bond, and so there's a lot of work that has to be done to get the support from the community and see what the, you know, whether or not the community supports passage of a bond, which requires 60% plus one. In terms of construction, it would take probably 2 years or so, 2 to 3 years at most, and it depends on the type of construction as well as the design itself. So I would say, you know, we were shooting at 4 years at the outset, but again, we could accelerate some of that stuff in the beginning.
Do you have something?
Yes. Carmen, could you go back 2 slides, please? I just want to make sure I'm understanding something properly. So when you say 325,000 checkouts, that means in 2016 that many checkouts happened, which is basically over 900 a day. It is insane, and I never would have believed it if somebody would have told me that. I would have lost everything if I would have bet on it. So, I mean, libraries are near and dear to my heart. I'm so happy to see this project reaching a milestone. And thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Anything else? Michelle, do you want to call for the vote? See, I'm doing it right.
Hochstetter?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Potato?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Hayden?
Yes. Passes. All right.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay. So we have 18-097, ordinance number 2643, exposing a minor child to domestic violence. Chief Murky.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, council members, staff, and citizens. City of Sumner has long sent a message that domestic violence will not be tolerated. Not only is it a state legislative RCW that requires officers to make mandatory arrests, but also in everything we say and we do. By providing domestic violence kiosk, by providing victims advocates for domestic violence, by vigorously prosecuting perpetrators of domestic violence, we have taken a very strong stance. Even in every October since I've been back here in May of 2008, we've done a proclamation in the city of Sumner for Domestic Violence Awareness Month every October. So now before you is another opportunity the city of Sumner can recognize the impact that domestic violence has when it's perpetrated in the presence of children. It poses potential for physical risk, but also, more importantly, the long lifetime adverse impacts that witnessing domestic violence has on children. There's been numerous studies. And when City Attorney Marquez came to Sumner and started as our prosecutor, as a deputy city attorney, this was something that she brought to my attention as a gap, something that's worthy of public policy from this council, saying not only will domestic violence not be tolerated, but when it's committed in the presence of children, that should be punished. And so what we have before you tonight is ordinance number 2643, which would, in effect, if adopted, add a new section under Sumner Municipal Code 9.12.095 that would make it a gross misdemeanor for an adult to commit an act of domestic violence in the presence of a minor child, and under this statute would define a minor child 16 years of age or younger.
All right, so do I have a motion for that? Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I move to adopt ordinance 2643 pertaining to the crime of exposing minor children to domestic violence.
Yes, and I'll second that.
Seconded by Hochstetter. Any questions for him? Mr. Stewart?
Thank you. Chief Marecki, thank you so much for putting this together. I think this is long overdue in many of our communities, and I have seen firsthand the impact of generational domestic violence. That's where children learn to be violent in their relationships, and this is a huge step towards stopping that. So thank you so much.
And giving credit where credit due is, again, it was really came from the city attorney as a prosecutor, seeing the victims and looking at other laws. This has been adopted in about 20 other states and other neighboring jurisdictions as well at the municipal levels.
Councilmember Potato?
So in section 1, part B, it talks about if the crime is committed in the immediate presence or is witnessed by the suspects or the victim's minor child, minor stepchild, minor foster child, or a minor child residing within the household or in the custody or care of the suspect or victim. I was wondering, what if my child ran over next door, to visit a friend, and do any of those cover somebody that's just there, for a short period of time, and then that incident occurs?
So that particular scenario does not appear would meet this definition under the statute.
Okay. Could
It'd have
that
to be a parent-child relationship between the perpetrator and the victim.
But could that be added in, or at least considered?
I would be more concerned about the scope, because then it would open it to public domain, like if there was a physical domestic at Fred Meyer's, for example,
Yeah.
and if any children were present or something like that may be a little bit unmanageable.
broad.
And really what we're trying to do is protect, like Councilmember Stewart said, is the cycle in a family dynamics. And unfortunately, there's a lot of verbal, a lot of other kinds of neglect that go on. This can only be limited to acts that meet the definition of domestic violence, but we really are trying to protect, to the degree possible, the family unity and the
Okay.
children with seeing that in the family.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to state I'm very proud that our city is bringing this forward, so thank you.
All right. Okay, Michelle?
Stewart?
Yes.
Potato?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Hayden?
Yes.
Reed?
No, it's Hochstetter.
I'm so sorry. Yes, you're right. It is Hochstetter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Whew. Well,
That
we-
was your first one.
Ever.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Ever, yeah. Okay, so we made it this far, wow. Council reports. Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you. I have a couple things tonight. First, I'd like to thank staff for the outlets up here. It is so nice. Thank you very much for upgrading this. Now we don't have to climb under the table to plug in our laptops, so thank you for going above and beyond. Two, I wanted to let people know that I've been meeting with the Sumner School District's superintendent and also the director of community engagement on several topics, but mostly revolving around the issue of equity in our schools and how that affects our community, something I'm sure we all care about. So I'll keep you updated as things progress there. And then third, there's sort of a theme tonight that I picked out anyway, between Kylie coming here to talk about the Sumner sweep and everyone that attended that, Chief Maricki with everything that he had to share tonight. And then having a veteran come here to remind us about Memorial Day, and then the library, right? It's this common thread of service and the reminder to all of us to be of service to people in our community, to our families. It is incredibly rewarding and necessary. So thank you.
Cindy?
Well, I had a good week last week. And last Thursday, I went to a meeting at the Sumner Bonnie Lake School District, and it was about the new Pathways program that they're launching district-wide. And Pathways is a plan to help all students be job-ready at graduation and help our students also be engaged so that they want to graduate. The school district plans to start in the real early grades and get the students to focus on practical skills and develop tools that will help them get into the training and get the right kind of education to get the job they love. So one element of the plan is to have the school district connect with local businesses and other businesses and to develop internships for the students and externships for the teachers so that they know they have practical experience about what it takes to be out there in the job force. So I want to thank the community volunteers that contributed and worked on this plan with the school district, and a thanks to the school district for listening and implementing the community input into their plan. And the other fun thing I did was, on Saturday morning, I went to Kylie's Sumner Sweeps, and I had a nice walk outdoors with some great people of all ages. Everybody there took the cleanup job lightheartedly and made it a lot of fun. So my thanks to Kylie from Windermere. She had it very well organized, and it all went very smoothly. And I'd say it was a success, and I'd like to see us do it again. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go all the way down to Barbara.
Well, I went on Wednesday night with Chief Moriki to the police memorial. It was quite moving, but one thing that was good to see that he did not have to come up and read any names of fallen officers from our community. So I just hope that continues. But they did recognize fallen officers back into the 1800s, so it was quite an event. And then I'm just so pleased, to see that the property is being bought as a possible location for the library. The library is so important, and it's good that we have such a strong partnership with the city and the library system. And I'm just reminded of this. My aunt helped fund a library in a small town in southern Oregon, and at this time the library's closed, but they are having a vote next week, so I'm just hoping it'll fund the library for them, because we just know how important it is for the resources, especially when you see these numbers, and there's a lot of other effects that we don't see. So thank you for coming, and we'll look forward to the next 4 years.
Mr. Stewart.
Thank you. Congratulations for the library project. You're on your way, and good luck with your financing and everything else that lies ahead. Glad to have the city as a supporting partner in that. And thanks to my fellow council members for their participation in the Sumner Sweeps. The only thing I came away with, I had a few friends that participated. It was an interesting observation to see how excited little children were to pick up bags of dog poop. Another observation, there was an awful lot of baby wipes along the trail that we cleaned. And come on, folks, really, I think we need to maybe, I like the idea of partnering with Fred Meyer and the other businesses to put garbage cans or some sort of waste receptacles in these areas where people are walking. If you have a bottle of water and you finish it and you don't feel like carrying it home, then you can put it in a bin somewhere. Anyway, I think that was a great activity. First annual is very successful, and I hope it is ongoing. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
All right. I did not visit the library at the Ryan House in 1920, but I did visit the Ryan House Library in the 60s and the 70s, and I know I have my name on the checkout card and a lot of books in there, so, but I'm excited about the new library location as well. So, that is one great thing for everybody. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for putting up with me filling in for Mr. Pugh, who is in Washington, D.C. So we made it through, and I'm excited that I got to do it on such an exciting night as voting for the library. So with that, I would say meeting adjourned. Oh, wait. Okay, we are adjourned. Man, yeah, that's how to make it shorter. It's not Brett.